Welcome back to the Chicago Tomahawk. I'm Mike, and I got my line mate Matt with me. Today, we're going to go over the Pacific Division. We're going to talk about the Blackhawks rookie camp, Nazar standing out, and the Blackhawks new TV deal that isn't exactly finished, but a lot of fans are worried because there's really not enough information on it, and we're about 15 days away from this thing supposed to go live. But first, let's start off with the Blackhawks rookie camp. Matt, they say Frank Nazar really stood out at this thing. What did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard he scored a goal. He's had very, very good zone entries. He's kind of like the standout. Probably one of the best players in the prospect tournament for our team now that Leshinov is injured. But they said that, he was a huge standout yesterday. And, man, I think he's going to make the team.
Really?
Yeah. I think he's too good to play down.
You know what? I mean, you could arguably say the same thing for Korchinski, considering that he could keep up at the NHL level. Nazar, on the other hand, I think that he has been getting better and better over time. Do you think that if they sent him down to the AHL that it would be good for him?
I think it would absolutely help him. Like, he'll probably be a stud. I could even see him being like a leading goal guy in the whole league, probably. That's just how good he is. I honestly would like to see him just. I mean, if he struggles, we always have the option to send him down. But I'd like to see him play with some of these young kids that are coming up too. Even I'd like to see him with Connor Bedard. I think that'd be awesome. He's just that type of player that kind of fits with him. He's got that. I don't know, man. He's small, fast. It looks like he's creative, but it looks like if he gets Connor the puck, he can create space with his speed and stuff like that. I think it'll make Connor even a better player.
Yeah, and Nazar's actually a pretty tough kid too.
Yeah, he's feisty. I like that, and he's got a good personality on the ice and off the ice, and those are the types of guys like most blue-collar fans, root for, like Andrew Shaw type guy. But I think this guy's got potential to be, way better than an Andrew Shaw type of guy.
As you mentioned before, Leshinov was out of the camp because he took a puck off with a foot, and there really hasn't been much information after that. But we'll have to see how he develops, and hopefully that this injury isn't too big so that he could, have an opportunity to have his first full camp.
Yeah, that sucked because I know a lot of people, a lot of like analysts, beat writers were really looking forward to get a good close eye on him, and sure enough, he takes it off the foot, and that's. I was a goalie. I didn't have to really worry about that too much, but I do know when defensemen, go to block a shot, take a hard slap shot to the foot, it's bad. They could barely make it to the bench sometimes, and they tell you to leave the skate on. That's how, they don't want it to kind of keep it tight in there. But the good news is nothing's broke, they said, so they're just being extra cautious, which is good. I think he's probably going to start the year in the minors. Either way, but eventually I could see maybe trade deadline time he'll be up.
Do you think that this kid, given the opportunity, what if he's good enough to play? Do you think that it would be good just to send him down anyways?
It's so weird, man, with some guy, like defensemen there, you got to be really patient with them, but when you don't have anybody that, you don't have anybody that could play the position, the NHL position, and they're, you're getting lit up every night, and it's almost like, hey, throw him in there because we don't really have anybody we can replace him with. Like say like a Connor Murphy, he's struggling or whatever, and it's like, all right, maybe let's scratch Connor Murphy and let's try this kid. And the kid's really good and he's playing great and making plays. It's hard to send him down, but everything with Davidson, with Reichel, he's been very cautious, very patient with, and sometimes it's like, come on, man, give him a shot now. He's played his dues. He's played in the minors all year, and okay, he doesn't score two goals in in 2 games or whatever. He's cold, send him back down. Defensemen are different, and I feel like Korchinski, he got it different. They kind of threw him into the fire. He's good enough. That, and we didn't really have anybody to play the position that was any good. So with Leshinov, I mean, if he's better, than all these guys, like I personally, I haven't seen him. It's too hard to compare. I like to see him play like NHL talent, like preseason would be cool, but that's still kind of, you're not really getting a good sample size with, going against better players. Sometimes you're going against, rookies that are just trying to make the team too. So, I mean, I think Davidson will send him down to be safe and let him develop because that's kind of his thing. But it's just weird that he didn't do that with Korchinski. And I thought Korchinski was fine last year. I mean, he really didn't hurt the team. Yeah, everybody was a minus and everything, but it's weird that he's different with him and then he's going to take this approach with Leshinov. It's just, I don't know, I don't get, some players just got it different, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I don't know where we are, because clearly we've been rebuilding the past few years, but with the signings that we've got, adding some veterans in, it's like I'm not sure, because I would like for some of these other players to get an opportunity to play, like Nolan Allen. I think that he's been down in Rockford for, this is about 2 years already. And
he's wearing the C too.
Is he?
I heard he had a C on at this camp, which is pretty cool to see. I love when defensemen, they get that letter because they're good locker room guys, and I'm excited to see Nolan Allen. I wish they'd give him a shot at the end of the year. It would have been great last year. Like, I mean, what are you playing for? Let's see what this kid's got.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't playing for anything. They weren't playing for anything at Christmas time.
Thanksgiving maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, I would like to see some of these other guys get an opportunity, and I don't know if they're expecting injuries why we've signed some veterans, or if it's just for veteran leadership. I'm kind of just not sure where they're going with it. And after signing another defensive prospect, muddling the pool a little bit, it just seems like it makes an opportunity for us to have too many defensive prospects. We let a couple go, and then they go off to some other organization, and they become everyday starters. Kind of like Forsling and even Jan Ruda. They went to two other teams, I believe Florida and Tampa, and they became everyday playoff performers. And it's just I just don't know like what's going on. And I'd like to have like a little bit more clarification of what the plan is. So. I guess we'll just take it as we can. Hopefully,
we just gotta wait. If he's gonna be, we're gonna send him to the minors, and he's gonna stay there all year, or it's gonna be a Reichel thing. Like, we're gonna call him up and give him 10-game trials and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it's just weird with Korchinski because it's like, okay, kid, you're in, go.
Right.
And they take different approaches with other players, and I don't know. I don't really. There's really no consistency with his plans with that.
One thing that I am really confused about also is that the plan for their TV, rollout. The Blackhawks, NBC Sports has shut down the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the White Sox are starting their own channel, their own sports network, and the only information that we have so far is that it's going to come out on Uverse, DirecTV, and Dish. And I don't know how many subscribers you have with DirecTV, dude, but because this company has just been tossed around by everybody, bought and sold. I don't know anybody who has DirecTV. It kind of falls in line with like that traditional kind of, cable subscription. And, there's a lot of people that are on Xfinity and a lot of people who use streaming services, me being one of them. I use Hulu Plus Live. I think you do too, Matt, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a Hulu guy as of last year.
Yeah. And, I would rather either A, them put it out on one of these streaming services, or B, do it like Marquee, where if you want to just subscribe to just the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, you pay like a $20 fee for like their app, and you can watch it on your Apple TV or your Google TV or your Roku, whatever you have. And if you have a cable service, you can watch it on Xfinity or what have you. But me personally, I would prefer just having that one, having an app that you can subscribe to and watch Blackhawks games. I think that'd be really cool. What do you think?
Hawks Vision.
Yeah, Hawks Vision. That'd be pretty cool. They named Pat Boyle, Tony Granato, and Kaylee Chelios as their TV crew, and that's it. There's no information on what else they're doing yet. So we'll have to see, man. But it's just really confusing because we're like 15 days out before preseason games are being played. And actually,
they might not even be televised.
Yeah, I think 3 of them are not going to be televised, and 3 of them will be. But there's just no information in it. It just really sucks. It seems like these rollouts for these TV stations, like their own networks, are, whenever a team does it, man, it's always botched. And I don't know, why that is, like why they don't have, people that are squared away, putting this stuff together.
Well, didn't the Cubs do this 5-8 years ago, or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was
Marquee Network.
It was about 4 years ago, and initially
4 years ago.
Yeah,
okay.
and initially, they only had it on. It took them forever to get their Xfinity deal. They did that, and then they had their app, but you can only use the app if you were subscribed via a cable service. And then last season, they allowed you to sign up in the app to pay for a monthly fee to watch Cubs games, which is what I do because I don't subscribe to traditional cable, and I like that much better. And as of right now, they're actually covering the Chicago Sky, and I think one more other Chicago sport. Yeah, I mean it's become successful for them so far, and
I think the Yankees started that.
Yeah, they did. They started it, and then apparently in LA, it's completely jacked up because there's people who live in Los Angeles, and they can't watch Dodger games.
Yeah, I mean that's just I don't get how that's like that. I mean, I think it would be cool if the Hawks had their own 24/7 network type of thing, like an NHL network, but make it a Hawks site, so you get feed from, say, Rockford. You could get Ice Hogs games. You could get, obviously, Blackhawks games. You get, behind-the-scenes stuff, obviously recorded, not live. That'd be pretty cool. But, stuff ain't cheap, They gotta figure it out, and I'm sure it would be expensive for the fan, probably $30 a month type of thing, and some people don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, the Cubs charge $19.99, which I think is pretty reasonable. You get all 165 games. And, I mean, if they made the playoffs, I'm sure they would cover some of that too. But, $19.99 wouldn't be, crazy for the Blackhawks to charge, would it? Especially if you can get Bulls and White Sox games as well.
Yeah, you guys partner up. You're probably going to get a better deal. The teams do it together, and then you got access, all the time. You say you're like a Netflix type of thing. You could choose hey, I want to watch Hawks future or former Hawks games, or Sox games, Bulls games, and then there's just little cool things like documentaries about Jordan, Frank Thomas, Chelios types of things. I mean, they can make it really big if they took some thought into it. But yeah, cable's gonna be dead in a couple of years, man. So they gotta make the switch over and not worry about satisfying the DirecTV people,
right?
Because like you said, I don't know anybody with DirecTV either. I think I saw one dish walking around my block the other day, but that was it.
Yeah, man. I wonder why they didn't team up with the Cubs, since they already have the broadcasting infrastructure. Why didn't they say, hey, why don't we, get
it's weird.
The
Cubs
deal together?
And the Hawks had that connection. When McDonough was there, they had that little. The Cubs would always, be at the Hawks games, and they'd do obviously the Winter Classic was there a year later, and kind of like a little bromance going on. But then, the Cubs were like, yeah, we're going to do our own thing, and. It is surprising. The White Sox, no one's going to watch them anyway because they can't win. The Bulls, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if you're a basketball guy, but I just feel like it'll never top what the 90s teams.
Sure.
I just feel like it definitely is a Bears town. It would be pretty cool for the NFL's different, but it would be cool if there was like a Bears, Blackhawks, Cubs, Bulls, even White Sox whole like just channel dedicated to them and stuff.
Yeah.
But they got NFL's got it different. They play like on Fox, and where they play on like they have football on Thursdays, ESPN and NBC.
Yeah.
So you could tell who's winning the sports because they just do it better,
Yeah, they do. It's I wonder how long it's going to take for the for like the NHL to kind of catch up. And we kind of talked about this briefly last week about the like how the NFL and how they market their players and their teams, so much better, and what it does is it puts a better product on the field. And look at some of the stadiums that these places are building, dude. Like in Los Angeles, and it's like SoFi. I think SoFi Stadium out there in Los Angeles. It's incredible. Obviously Dallas has their shrine out there in Dallas, which is absolutely incredible too. I think they hold 100,000 people. Yeah, it is. And I'm waiting for the NHL to kind of catch up in a way, because they're talking about the NHL is kind of growing in some ways, but then in other ways it's not. Like we need to get like more people's eyes on the game, and in some ways make it easier to understand. I'm not sure how you do that.
Yeah, it works in Canada, obviously. Here it's different. But what's weird to me? We haven't had an All-Star game at the United Center, ever. Chicago Stadium, I think, was 91, the last All-Star game.
Yeah.
And that's a time where you really showcase your talent. And a city like an Original Six city would probably like really boost those numbers. But we keep having All-Star games at places like, didn't they have an All-Star game in Florida a couple of years ago? It's like, come on, man. They don't. Atlanta had an All-Star game before. I know we have all these Winter Classic games and stuff, but I'd like to see, obviously like McDavid and Bedard teamed up, like the West versus the East tradition, and just, showcase the hell out of it. Like Gretzky versus Lemieux back in the day. Like,
sure.
That's what I like to see. East versus West, and everybody was watching it. You had all your stars aligned. The NHL doesn't do that. We have like rock shows of people I've never even heard of. Like, we got Fall Out Boy. Who cares? It's not 2005 anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just little things that they can make the game better and really help it grow. And I never understood, like, we have all-star games in cities that don't care. The Winter Classic is really cool when you have a team that's, I think it's a must. An Original Six team must be in the game because that will obviously help. We have two teams that no one cares about usually, and I'm sorry, I don't want to watch the Kings face the freaking Ducks in LA on a Winter Classic night, like a 70-degree night. It's just not hockey to me,
Yeah.
But I think they did a great job with that game in Lake Tahoe a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I think it
they
did. Boston and Colorado. That was really cool. I like that a lot.
Well,
but
I have another.
Just certain things you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I have another. I kind of want to touch on something on that, but in a second. TD Tutty taking it to the house. Whatever you call a touchdown, the matter more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports partner of the NFL. Ready to place your NFL bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Baker Mayfield has been putting up some good numbers starting last year and to start out the season this year. He's someone that I think may have finally found the organization and the system that really benefits him. And he's been putting up big numbers, and he's somebody I like to bet on. Check him out if you're ready to score a touchdown of your own. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code ShyTomahawk. That's code ShyTomahawk for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Only at DraftKings Sports. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms. Now, Matt, I understand what you're saying about, say watching the Kings versus, the Ducks, but at the same time, how can they put new teams out there? Because how many times can we watch the Blackhawks play the Red Wings, or, watching the Red Wings play Toronto, or Pittsburgh playing Boston? It's like we can't do these same mashups every year. And I think that it's, just starting, because there is a little bit of a West Coast rivalry back there, and trying to get that rivalry out a little bit. I think that they need to do those things. And are people going to watch? That's debatable. I'm not really a big, Kings fan, obviously, but I think the idea is cool. Getting people to watch, I think, are two different things. Do you think that maybe, or do you have any suggestions on what can make it cooler, or maybe possible matchups that would make it better?
The Winter Classic?
Yeah, the Winter Classic, or like these stadium series games, like that kind of stuff.
The Winter Classic would be cool if you look at the playoff previews before. Say here's my thing. Say 2009. The Hawks and the Canucks beat the hell out of each other in the season and the playoffs. Winter Classic that the next season. That's what I would do. Keep that rivalry and the blood boiling, because that's great hockey, and people want to see that nastiness. Maybe like a Stanley Cup rematch type of thing is kind of cool too, like a Winter Classic. I don't know about you, but I thought the Oilers and Panthers was a great Stanley Cup final. I thought it was good, and I thought it would be pretty cool to see a Winter Classic, like a rematch type of game. Like, hey, we got you. We're going to get you this year, and watch out type of thing. And I think that'll help. But no one wants to, this is what's weird to me. I'm happy we got the Winter Classic at Wrigley. That's awesome. It's been done before
3 times,
but
or is
the
this
Hawks
the second
are not
time?
going to be that good.
Yeah,
we're not going to be that good. But people want to see Connor Bedard. The young kids want to watch Bedard, which is fine. But it was more exciting in 2009 when we were pretty. I'd say we were contenders. We won the next season. But I mean, that was a good game, and it meant something. The Hawks and the Wings, that game meant something. Our game probably won't. It'll just mean 2 points. If the Hawks win, cool. The fans will be happy. But that was a good game, and they played the 2 nights before that, I think, too, and it was a pretty intense game, if I remember. I think Kane got hurt that game, honestly. But if you go back to get the rivalries going and the bad blood, I feel bad for the teams that aren't in them that much, but I'm sorry, you got to make money in the end. You got to sell tickets, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't really want to watch the Carolina Hurricanes play, like somebody like the Flyers.
Yeah,
that's not it's not a selling point. It's just not going to happen. It's not like Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior. It's got to be the heavyweights. So I mean, Boston would be a good game to see, say at Fenway playing against the Rangers, something like that. Even the Maple Leafs, because they hate each other. They run into each other in the playoffs all the time, and the Leafs are getting beat up. I'm sure they're getting sick of it, but you got stars there. You got Matthews, you got Marner, you got Brad Marchand, you got Pasta. I mean, people, that's what you do. You showcase the hell out of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying to, like, the diehard fan, like, oh, these guys again, but unfortunately, that's how you got to grow the game.
So you don't want to see matchups like Seattle versus Carolina?
I would no, and even I think Seattle was recently in it, weren't they?
Yeah,
weren't they? Wasn't it? I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I'm sorry. I can't. There's not one guy that was appealing to me to watch on Seattle, and I think Matty Beniers was like the best guy, and he's a 20-goal guy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to pay to see him. That's just how it is, and that the average fan, they're going to be like, okay, what's so good about this guy? And then you look at, like, yeah, I know Tampa is obviously in Florida. It's not really a good Winter Classic kind of team, but Kucherov versus McKinnon in the mountains, that would be awesome because these guys are in, like, point races every year. They're trying to get the heart. Just little storylines. I think the NHL should get and try to, like Matt Rempe. He's the fighter now. He's the guy. He's the NHL Probert. Okay, who's another guy that's coming up, like, that wants to challenge him? And they're the Rangers, and these guys are like New Jersey. That I like because there's bad blood. Matt Rempe is a big kind of up and coming name that people like, are the Rempe Empire, they call him. He's just a big name, and people want to see that. And hey, throw him out with a guy, and you got old time hockey. There's fighting going on, and there's two teams that are competing for. Honestly, dude, I think New Jersey is going to be a contender. I know they had a lot of injuries, and I know Luke Hughes is going to be out for a while, but Jack's back, and I think this team can give the Rangers a run for the money, and that's what they got to capitalize on.
So, to kind of move on to the Pacific Division, who do you want to start off with there?
Well, I think it's the Oilers' division to win. I mean, they clearly are. They had a really bad start of the season, and they fought hard and won 17 games, and I think it's their division. I think it's going to be followed by Vegas, and the third team is going to be interesting. But I think it's going to be Vancouver, and all the other teams I think are just going to get beat up. So I think 3 teams from the Pacific will make the playoffs, and the 2 wild cards will probably be in the Central.
So I'm curious, man. I think Vancouver is on their way up, man. And
oh yeah,
is it safe to say that Edmonton is, what are they right now?
I think they are ready to go. I think they could win a cup. It's going to be a lot on Connor and a lot on Leon, but hey, they did it last year. They were 1 game away. I still think it's their division. Vancouver was very good last year. Rick Tockett's done great work there coaching. And their stars played, but their stars really didn't show up in the playoffs. Pettersson had he signed his big extension, and kind of after that, it kind of
died down.
Like, what happened to him? He's not human anymore. But that team is solid, man. And Thatcher Demko is the question mark. He had that injury, and he missed the rest of the playoffs. And they're still saying that he could be hurt. So that's concerning to me. That's why I got him. That's why I got him in third. I think their offense, and Quinn Hughes, obviously the captain on the back end, with he's got I think he's the best Hughes brother right now.
I agree.
After winning that Norris Trophy, and all 3 of them are going to be studs. But
I don't think it's close.
He's going to carry that team. Yeah, he's phenomenal talent. But I think the other teams in the division, obviously the Sharks, they're rebuilding. They're going to be, at the bottom. The Flames have just had a rough go since the Tkachuk trade and losing Johnny Hockey to free agency and stuff like that. It's just hasn't been the same. And the Kraken, I don't know, man. I thought that year they beat Vegas, right? Or no, they beat Colorado in Game 7 in that playoff series. But yeah. I think that was kind of a fluke, dude. I think Colorado was tired. It caught up to them. And I think they're going to be kind of a bottom feeder team, too. And the Kings, I don't get the Kings.
They're sneaky.
They got good players. They are sneaky. Quentin Byfield's going to be a stud. Kopitar is still a stud. I just don't. They make the playoffs and they get booted by the Oilers. It's been 3 years in a row. I think they're going to take a step back. Maybe they'll compete for a wild card, but I still think the teams on the top are just too good.
Do you think that, here's I guess I'll play devil's advocate. Do you think that the Oilers, after, grinding to a Game 7 last year, losing by 1 goal, and, after that beating that they've taken, because clearly their top guys, they just couldn't produce anymore in that last 10 minutes of the game. Do you think that this is the start of the grind has been, just too much, and then they're going to start to step back a little bit? Because that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Connor has been on the ice for a couple of weeks now, and I think he's just more hungry. And I think the players follow his lead. He's just that good of a player. And they might struggle, but I still think that they're going to take the division. And you know what, man? I think they're going to compete for a cup again. I think they kind of remind me of a little bit of the Panthers the year before. Hey, we're right there. We're right there. We're going to go get it. We know we can get there. We know what we got to do. And I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to take that step back.
Interesting. I'm kind of waiting, dude. Some of these guys are going to start taking, age is going to start catching up to them. How old is McDavid now?
He's got to be closer to 30. I think he's got
okay. He's maybe 27. I think Dry is 29. So we're not talking about these dudes are 24. They just sniffed a cup and they're, looking to make it in. These dudes are heading to their late 20s, which is still their prime, and they're still, but when are injuries going? Because last year, Connor had a couple injuries, nothing huge, but it shows that the body is going to start breaking down sooner rather than later.
I'm surprised 27 and all the points he's put up is incredible already. I'd say, hey, this is it. You got 3 years, you think? A window?
The reason, essentially the reason I'm saying it's so big is because of how much they rely on him and Draisaitl and how much that they have to do for this team to be successful, that how long can they keep that up? I think that it's aging them more than what it can be. This playoff series
definitely aged them up, probably 2 years.
And I think that's the problem because you have teams like Vancouver who, these guys are really young and they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, and they easily, they could have won, and it could have been it could have been them versus Florida. And I just think that some of these younger guys that their bodies are that haven't played and their teams don't rely on them as much as Edmonton does, that they're at a bit of an advantage here. Look at Florida, for example, right? Their offense is spread out through the lineup. There isn't two people that is driving the entire offense for the organization. Their offense comes down to multiple players. You could say, Carter Verhaeghe stepped up. I think
good depth.
Big last year, and that depth scoring is what makes a difference between these squads, and that's why Florida essentially was able to win, because they have more than two people scoring points. Evander Kane wasn't putting up any numbers, and that's pretty much his purpose. Is he's there to put up points. Hyman had. A ton of goals during the regular season. Didn't see much from him in that final series, and without that depth scoring, and you relying on these two guys so much that they're winded and out of breath. There's 2 minutes left, and you've still got them in the game. I just don't see that them pulling out of that. And they lost two big guys due to those. what are they, man?
The offer sheets.
The offer sheets, yeah, the offer sheets.
Two young guys.
Yeah, two young guys. They were supposed to be part of the future of that organization, and they lost that, and now they have to bring in two other guys to try to replace that, and they got those guys through the draft. So
Bowman's in for some
it's
work.
It's a bad situation, to be honest with you. I think it's a bad situation to walk into.
Yeah, at least win and then come in. Not, you know what I mean? At least he won the cup with the Hawks and he knew, okay, I bought myself time. I'm a winner here.
Right.
And now it's pay these guys big bucks and hope it works out. And it's going to be a lot harder when, two guys are making almost half the cap.
Right.
If you think about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's like what? Between the two of them, that's like 26.5 million?
Could be closer to 30. Could be. You never know with these TV deals.
Yeah. It's just my take, man. Obviously, the Flames aren't in it. I don't even know what to say about the Golden Knights. I mean, they're another sneaky team too. That I think that they have pretty good, solid depth. Who knows how much Mark Stone is going to play, but.
They're old to me.
They are.
The Kings. They have all these guys they're good players. They got Thomas Hertl at the deadline. They got all these they got everybody else's gems back in the day, and dude, it's gonna catch up.
Yeah,
it's gonna hit them when there's no young guys coming up.
Yeah,
and they trade their future away.
Yeah,
and hey, they won. That's great. And everything.
I mean, they did.
You're gonna pay the price.
They did.
You're gonna pay the price.
And I think that's the difference between them and Edmonton is that they were able to do it. They won. They got that cup. Organization-wise, you want to get that cup. They got it. And they may pay the price, but look what's going on with Edmonton. What if that game, let's say they make it to the finals again, and what if they get swept? Or what if they lose in 5? That series versus Florida the closest that they're going to get? Even if McDavid puts up 35, 40 points and they don't win, what does it matter?
That's true, yeah. At least in the end, hey, you won. You paid the price. You're going to probably struggle in the next couple of years for probably a longer time than the Hawks are going to struggle with their rebuild.
Yeah.
But in the end, hey, they got the banner. They got their name on the cup. They got, a championship caliber team. And McDavid, in the end, they got to do it. And I think their window is probably, I'd say 3 years.
Yeah.
I'd say you got 3 years. That's it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 3 years max.
Or it ain't going to be with the Oilers.
Right.
That's what it's going to come down to, yeah.
And then they can go to another squad where, maybe, they're not relied upon as heavily.
That Ray Bourque type of trade, with the Avalanche back in the day, that's what he needed.
And
the poor guy couldn't do it all. He couldn't do it all by himself.
He was a top player for Boston. He went to Colorado, dude. And he was a hell of a role player there. I don't want to say a role player. I would say that he didn't have to be the number one guy, and he excelled at that. And look what happened. They won a cup.
The best goalie in the world helps.
Yeah,
too.
it does. It does. All right. Lastly, man, I want to go over this Barstool versus 670 war. Yes. I never knew that this was coming, but I love it. I never thought that I'd be on Team Barstool the way that I have, but apparently, what's the name of the show? Berstein and Holmes or something like that? So, it's Holmes and Berstein or something like that, right? And this guy Berstein, he was essentially. There was 4 guys. They're talking their bit, and the guy from Barstool called him Berstein. And then Berstein comes back saying, "You can call me Dan or you can call me Bernsey, but you don't know me that way." And it's kind of like, what are you talking about, dude? The name of the show is Holmes and Berstein, and he called you Berstein, and he had a problem with it. And everybody is jumping on this guy right now. It's crazy.
He's been like that forever.
He has.
He's Chicago people know he's always been that type of guy. I have some history with the guy. I coached his son, and I have nothing but great things to say.
I remember you telling me about that a few years ago.
Nothing great things to say about his son. Great kid, Great goalie, works hard in practice, did a great job in the games. Great kid, very respectful. I met him once. He was very nice, very cool. But on the air, he's got a character,
Sure.
He's got that, he's a kind of like a sarcastic know-it-all. And if the thing I don't get about the Score is they're all woke people. They're all of them. They're all for apologists and everything. They're all about being nice. But their whole thing is they open the phone lines. You call to bring up a topic. Say, hey, I want to talk about the Hawks. Oh, hockey sucks in this town. You don't know what you're talking about. That's their whole thing, and it's always been that way. And he was the mouthpiece of it for many years. He was the very tough on callers, and then you see the guy, and it's like, hey, did you ever play any sports? You don't look like athletic to me.
Yeah.
And he just came across that for many years. My dad used to listen to Mike North. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
He was cool. I thought he was a Chicago guy. He talked like that, and he talked about the Bears and the Hawks and JR and stuff like that. And then they had Berstein kind of take over that afternoon show, which, on your way home from work, that was it.
Right.
But now it seems like Bernstein's always hated Barstool because they're like dudes like us, if you think about it.
Sure.
We got other jobs. We do this for fun, and these guys they made something out of it. They got their own shows. They got a lot of endorsements, and he's like, oh, I had to go to communication school, sports stuff like that to make my money. But you guys are just average Joes, and I think that's his mentality of it.
It's like, fuck you, dude. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? It's like, okay, if you're going to college to be a doctor, to be an engineer, these are things that I believe need extensive schooling, right? But if you're telling me that you went to college so that you can talk on the radio, like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
I get the vibe. That's why he's upset.
Because
Barstool's huge. The Score, it's dying, dude. It's not. No one listens to that. And I had a buddy who's obsessed with the Score. Hey, turn on the Score. They're talking about the Hawks. I'm like, I have Sirius XM. I'm listening to NHL radio. I'll get more out of it in 2 minutes than their whole 3-hour show about it.
Or a podcast. And there's other hockey podcasts out there, man, they're great.
They're very obsessed with the Bears. Which is fine. It's a Bears town. That's how it is. But I feel like Dan, I don't know what it is, but he got very, very angry the last couple of years. I think COVID really did that to people, made him more crazy. I think he's that type of guy. But when I watched that video, I remember sending it to you. I'm like, oh my God, like, call me Dan or Bernsey.
Yeah,
and Bernsey is more personable, don't you think? Like,
so.
It's like
but he said you don't know me like that.
You don't know me like that. You got to call me Dan or Bernsey. So Bernsey is anything. It's more personable. If Bernstein is like, oh, okay, that's your last name.
It's like, hey, dude, is there a problem? Do we need to go outside and take care of this? Because seriously, you're obviously really upset about this.
To me, that's not even the worst part. It was the video. Did you see it after they went to commercial? The guy goes, what did you call it? What did he call you? And he goes, sarcastic face, like, what are you, 5 years old?
He called me Bernstein.
He called me Bernstein. And I would have been like, well, that's your name.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So, I'm not a Score guy. I've been anti-Score for a while. They've, they're just, they got a little agenda. I feel like a lot of them want to be on CNN. Well, cool. Talk politics all you want on CNN. This is sports. We want to listen to sports.
Yeah, you could say the same thing.
That's why I stopped listening to them years ago.
Well, cool, everybody. I was going to say that you could say the same about ESPN. Maybe these dudes want to be on ESPN and just didn't make it,
Keith Olbermann, he's the Mr. I love sports, but I'm going to talk politics. Dude, shut up.
Like, no one cares, man. We just want to hear about the game. Let's just talk about the game. All right, everybody, that's all that we got for you this week. We're going to keep coming at you next week. Let us know what you think. If you got any cool bets that you hit this past week, I'm curious to know what you got and what you hit. I'll share what I did, and we'll catch you on the next one. This is the Tomahawk. We're out of here.